players for nothing. We could get nothing in return. We could get, I don't know. We could get something that
We can get picks, we
that
can get prospects, we can get.
no one knows where the direction will be. I don't even know if Jeff Gorton knows where the direction's going to
I don't
be.
think he does either, but I know that. I think he knows that it's time to rebuild the farm system, which is good because our farm system is pretty much shot, especially since we've been trading away our first round picks like crazy over the past few years. It definitely helps that we had two in the last draft, two first round picks in the last draft, and two prospects that could be potentially in the NHL next year. But of the names that you have seen thrown around, obviously the first move is Nick Holden. He's already gone. He went for a third round pick and a prospect in O'Gara, right?
Yep, Okara,
From
Boston.
Boston. So Nick Holden's gone. Of the guys that are left that you've seen names thrown around, Nash, uh, McDonough, Grabner, Zuccarello, who would you want to see move first? And who do you think the biggest piece is that can be moved?
I think the most value comes out of either Rick Nash or Ryan McDonough. Um, the first one I think goes is Rick Nash, just because of in my mind I think a done deal is almost, if not already in place. I think it's very well close to being made with either Nashville, I'm hearing, or Toronto, I'm hearing is in the mix. I'm hearing Ryan McDonough also might go to Toronto. He was not on the no trade list. I'm sorry, they were not on the no trade list, so that's a possibility. They could always step up their D. But also, the Rangers, if you look at their roster at this moment in time, right now, they are currently over the 23-man roster space that you are required to have. And there is a game happening in about 3.5 hours. So I don't know what that means. I'm hearing the Grabner talks also are heating up. So the chances of Michael Grabner or Rick Nash being scratched for tonight's game, I think, are likely. Which one, I'm not sure. And obviously, that would mean that they are very close to no longer being New York Rangers.
It's a very sad time for the Rangers.
It's going to be a whole nother face that obviously it's going to take some time to get used to.
It's going to be a new team that's going to have to find a new identity.
This core group will never play, probably never again, with each other.
Once McDonough's gone, he's not coming back.
Right.
I think fans need to be prepared for that. We may not see Ryan McDonough in a New York Ranger jersey ever again.
Same with Zuccarello.
Which is definitely sad. Nash is the only guy that I can part with and be like, okay, you had your time here. You didn't deliver the cup that we wanted. Granted, you had some good years, but you fell apart in the playoffs. He's the only guy that I can see leaving, and I won't miss because I knew his time was coming. He's getting up there in age.
He is.
He's not the same player he used to be. We want to think that he is, but he really isn't. He's more of the big body, get in front. He can still snipe on a breakaway. He doesn't put on any moves, but what is he really doing for us right now, other than being a warm body to put on the ice? He does have the value because if he's put in the right system, he can perform.
Right.
I just don't think that he was doing that in the Livigno system.
I feel like a lot of people were in the wrong system, or I don't know how. With the group of guys that we had, not able to do much with it. I mean, I don't credit all of the unsuccess with just Nash and just those guys, but I think his value is still there. And it's only, I wouldn't say it's getting higher. I think it's probably accurate where it is now. But,
Right now, there's actually a trade that just happened in the AHL with the Hartford Wolfpack.
Oh, there you go.
Eric Selleck has been traded to the Belleville Senators in exchange for futures considerations.
So
Hartford called up Dan DeSalvo from Tulsa of the ECHL. So
that means
another move.
So
Although,
someone's coming up. Nobody is getting sent down
no, nobody's
in
getting
replace of Lethierry. So that means it's almost guaranteed that somebody will be gone by game time.
either that or somebody's hurt that we don't know about. That could be not playing because of that. And I could see it being Stahl or even who's been hurt. McDonough's been hurt.
Well, yeah, but that would raise the question in my mind that it wouldn't be Lethierry that would be coming up because you
Yeah, you're right.
can't go with five. Can't go with five.
You want to play center defenseman or five defenseman,
Which,
which is terribly a bad idea.
not when 4 out of the 5 are AHLers. Nick Holden is gone, so he's not even an NHLer. Not like he acted like one when he was with us, but beside the point.
Yeah.
Very beside the point.
Very
Anyway,
beside the point. Anyway, the Rangers are really going to have to knock this out of the ballpark, I think, because this team still has the core pieces. They really do. They have young wingers. They have a young centerman who could potentially be a number one center in Zibanejad. They have young guys coming up in the center position. I'm hearing what I've been seeing is that the plan is for Filipino to be our second line center next year at some point, whether that's early in the season or after the new year or even after the trade deadline next year. But he is going to be a top six guy for us. So we have youth in the system right now coming up. I think the biggest thing we need to think about rebuilding is this defensive core. Because once McDonough's gone, who do we have? We have Shea, we have Shattenkirk. Holden's gone, Stahl's old, Brendan Smith is in the doghouse.
Stahl's old, but we still have him.
But we still have him. He will be a bottom guy.
And then Pionk,
Hopefully. Pionk's young, he's undersized.
Sproul,
Sproul,
D'Angelo,
Sproul hasn't really impressed me that much, honestly, in the couple of games that he's been up.
and Gilmore. Nobody.
D'Angelo has been playing very good. I will say that.
I haven't.
I think he has been playing very good for his age and for the situation that we're in.
Well, the situation that we're in, sure, like it's really anybody. He's with the other guys with me. None of them is impressing me. I'm not saying they're at fault for it, but they all really need to step their game up if they want to be an NHL defenseman. I'm not seeing anything. I'm not seeing improvement. I'm seeing someplace here and there that are good, but again, they're not. The reason they're not at fault is because of the situation that they're coming up in.
Right.
This team is struggling to keeping their head above water here to survive this year, and I feel bad for them, but in that case, there's no other way, no other experience, no other way to get NHL experience than to be in there, and if that's the case, then right.
To get these young guys the NHL experience than a team that's rebuilding.
Right.
It's going to be selling at the trade deadline. Probably won't be in playoff contention. Get the guys the experience. We knew when we got D'Angelo, the New York Rangers knew that we did not get him to be a shutdown defenseman. We got D'Angelo to help put up points on the defensive side, move the puck. He's very good puck moving wise. I like what I see. He's very fast with the puck. He's got the skating skill. It's just will he develop into the guy that we want him to be? And I think he can be a very good offensive threat that won't be afraid to drop the gloves. Because he has been one of the few people to get in someone's face and say, get away from my goaltender.
It's about time because we needed somebody like that. And hey, if he could just be that guy, that's fine. I don't expect him to put up 30 points, but if he wants to be our fighter and our enforcer, that's fine with me. But here's a hypothetical for you, because speaking of rebuilding, and why not? We're in the trade season. Let's say the Rangers don't trade Ryan McDonough at the trade deadline. Maybe he won't be, he'll be on his way out anyway. And let's say the Rangers finish pretty low. They get like the 8th round pick.
The 8th overall?
Yeah, sure, the 8th pick, yeah. 8th overall. Do you trade Ryan McDonough and the 8th overall pick, for the number 1 pick in Dahlin?
If I'm the Rangers GM and that is an option, then yes, I am. But I do not see whoever has that number 1 overall pick moving because Dahlin is that high sought upon. he is being compared to the defensive likes of to the forward likes of Austin Matthews, Connor McDavid.
Right. Well, yeah.
This kid is going to be something special, and I don't know if you've looked at any of his highlights, but I saw a highlight tape of him, and the way that he can just keep the puck on a string and skate into the slot is absolutely incredible for a kid to be able to do that at, what, 18, 19 years old?
Right.
It's just absolutely incredible. I do not see anybody, whoever it is, whether it's Edmonton, whether it's Buffalo, whether it's Arizona, if whoever gets that first overall pick, I do not see them moving.
Fair.
But
the counter argument
is if I was them, I would strongly consider it because McDonough is a good defenseman.
Already proven.
Defenseman. Say Edmonton gets the number 1 pick. They're in no way, shape, or form rebuilding. They are just having a bad year.
Right.
They kind of need defense.
Right.
They're in win now mode. Does it make sense for them to trade that number 1 overall pick? Maybe it does. But then again, I don't think it's going to get done with the 8th overall pick and McDonough. I think there has to be a lot more compensation going to whoever is getting rid of that first overall pick.
Fair.
Because Dahlin's that high sought after. But we'll see. Maybe the Rangers will win the draft lottery.
Yeah, I don't really know what to expect.
I don't either. I could also see them not moving McDonough at the deadline and dealing with him in the offseason.
Right.
Because if we allow him to become an unrestricted free agent and we don't sign him, that would be just absolutely devastating because we, at one point, were going to trade him and get stuff from him. Now we would just be letting him walk away, just going. We're not getting anything.
Right.
And that is my biggest nightmare when it comes to McDonough because I don't know if he should be re-signed with us if he gets that far.
My biggest fear with the Rangers is not getting what they deserve in the pieces that we have. I really feel a fear that they're going to be underselling a few of these players.
Right.
And
I agree. You can definitely say that because of what happened with the Talbot trade. We got, 2 second-round picks for Cam Talbot, and we got absolutely destroyed on that trade. But the thing that's giving me hope is the fact that Jeff Gorton was able to give up, basically just ship off Nick Holden for a 3rd-round pick and a prospect.
right.
That sets the market.
Just find a team that wants him and that would take him.
Right. It really set the market. So I really do think that with all three, Nash, Grabner, and McDonough, I think they can easily get at least a pick and a prospect for both of them. A 1st-round pick and a prospect.
Very well could.
Very well could.
Possibility.
That's what I would like to see because then it's a 2-for-1 deal right there.
Yep.
Oh, it just makes me angry to see that the New York Rangers are no longer in win-now mode. But in other news, the Vegas Golden Knights have officially broken the record for the most points in an inaugural season.
Yeah, that was foreshadowed a long time ago. That's not a surprise to me, just because of how well they started.
They were 12-1-1 at some point.
Yeah,
I feel like
there was a point they haven't lost at home, and now they just keep winning.
They are still the best team in the Western Conference, which is really good for them because everybody said this team is going to be terrible for a few years. They're just building for the future. Look at them. They're in first place. They are legitimate cup contenders this year.
Yeah.
If you're the GM of the Vegas Golden Knights, do you think about buying this year? You have the assets. You have a lot of prospects. You have a lot of picks. In your first year, are you going to be a buyer at the deadline, or are you going to continue to sell and prepare for the future?
I say, sure. Buyers, for sure. Definitely not sellers. There's no
Well, yes, there's no
logical
reason
explanation
for them
to be sellers. So you're either not doing a thing, which is I could see why they don't want to disrupt all the magic that they have going down there.
Right.
But if a piece comes their way, absolutely just jump on it.
Right.
They're the best team in my opinion. The harder conference. They're going to run into powerhouses, especially in the playoffs. They're going to need that. I don't know if their legs can hold them in the playoffs. I don't know if they're going to be that team in the playoffs. But if they are buyers, if they turn into buyers on Tuesday, they very well could be. They have pieces. They need veteran leadership, which James Neal is on injured reserve right now, so that's going to be hard.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Knights in the next year, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, especially after that draft where they traded in the expansion draft. It felt like they just got picks on picks on picks. Yep. It was absolutely crazy to watch. I think the Islanders, of course, gave them a first-round pick and a second-round pick to take a no-name. Very good job by the Golden Knights and by the NHL. Very good for the NHL to put the Knights in a very good position to succeed. Which also brings up the point of, will they do the same thing when Seattle becomes a franchise? Because they are now I'm pretty sure they are officially going to be a team.
No, not yet. They put in for one.
They put in the down payment, right?
Right. They put it. They're meeting all the criteria to be a team. So now it's just up to Bettman and the committee of the board to choose where the city is going. Hearing Houston is also in the runnings for one, or maybe Quebec City takes back a team as well. But as far as that team goes, it's obviously going to be very interesting to see who is free agents and what team, locks up what kind of players and who's going to be available.
Right.
What's the NHL going to look like when Seattle or Houston or anywhere else gets a team?
I would love to see Quebec get a team, but the only problem is that they are on the East Coast.
Right.
And the NHL does not need any more teams on the East Coast. They have 16 teams in the East Division.
Right.
There's 15 teams in the Western Division, Western Conference. So Seattle and Houston make the most sense because they can be in the West.
Right.
Although Houston's really central, but Nashville's in the West, so
right. And
they like to
also.
Yes. So unless the NHL decides to move around the conferences again to get Quebec a team, I don't see Quebec being in the running. As much as I would love for them to get one,
yeah, I agree.
I don't see how it's possible. And I'm sure the NHL is looking into possibilities if they want to get a team into Quebec, how they can do it, what team would have to be moved. I think it would have to be the Carolina Hurricanes with the way their season's going is
right.
in the way they sell their games. Have you seen a home game?
Yeah, it's very sad.
It's terrible. They have absolutely nobody in that stadium.
It's funny, because do you want to know who was like that a few years ago? They're in the same state.
They're in the same state?
Yep.
Wow. Different sport?
Oh, wow. Wait, no, I'm sorry. What am I saying? They're in the same conference.
They are in the same conference. I'm going to go ahead and say Philadelphia?
No, the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Tampa Bay Lightning.
They couldn't buy people to come to this game.
And now look at them.
Now.
They're the number one team in the league.
They're top in the East. They're top in the league.
I'm sorry. They are the number 2 team in the league. The Golden Knights have passed them. Golden Knights have 84 points. Tampa Bay has 83 with the same amount of games played.
Right. And now they're getting sellout crowds from what they're
Well, who wouldn't want to go see that team?
Well, yeah,
that is an exciting team to watch.
It's just crazy that once they go from bankrupt to borderline bankrupt to not able to fill stands, and now they're selling out every game. So I don't know. Hopefully Carolina can suffer the same not really suffer, but perform in the
Yeah.
same aspect.
Well,
I like the Hurricanes. They're one of my favorite teams in the East. They're one of my favorite teams in the league, actually.
they are
Very
an
exciting
exciting
to watch.
team. The way they play is very exciting because they play fast. They play very fast, and I feel like one of their big things is just get pucks to the net, get pucks on the net. It feels like they outshoot everybody.
Yep.
But they just can't. They don't have a goaltender to do it. Cam Ward's not Cam Ward he used to be anymore. Scott Darling was never going to be the guy. Although they wanted him to be, he can't. He's not the guy. So they need a goaltender.
He was supposed to be.
He was supposed to be, but he's not.
Not the guy, but just a clear-cut number one. After the performance he put on in Chicago as a backup for how many years. But then Crawford, with all his injuries, he was able to step up. And that season, the season before they got him, the season's off-season, should I say, he was amazing. Because Crawford got hurt for almost the whole season. And Darling carried them to a number 2 spot in the Western Conference, in the Central Division.
Sounds a lot like Cam Talbot.
Almost. And that's right. That's what the potential could have been. That's what they saw. And at that point, you need a goaltender, and they'd given away. Eddie Lack never found his game after Vancouver.
Wow.
And now there's that. And now more news from the NHL. The Islanders and Josh Bailey are closing into a multi-year contract.
How old is Josh Bailey? Like 28, 29?
Yeah, something like that.
I hope they gave him like 7, 8 years. $60 million and just destroy their team, because that would be almost as bad as the TJ Oshie contract.
Yeah.
That thing is going to be a travesty in year 5, 6, 7, 8. What I don't know what they were thinking. So right now in the Metropolitan, the Capitals are leading the Penguins by a point, and Philadelphia is 2 points behind the Penguins.
Yep.
Did you see that coming this year?
Definitely didn't see it coming. I mean, if you look at their team, they're structured and they're very balanced. They have forward depth. In my opinion, they have the offense to be in this position. It was just a matter of time. But the way they've been doing it lately, no, I have not seen this coming at all.
They just traded for a goaltender, right?
Yeah, they did. They got Peter Mrazek from Detroit.
Peter Mrazek. Interesting.
Really
Young guy.
Isn't any better than the other 2 goaltenders that they have.
Got to do something, I guess.
He had one decent year on Detroit, and then that was about it. I don't know what they're. I hope they're not. Well, to me, they're the Flyers, so it doesn't really matter to me. But I don't know what their plan is with him. They're not going to. Well, they don't need to rebuild, but he's not the guy that's going to take them through the playoffs.
Right.
So I wonder if they're done, is what I'm trying to say. Is because Elliott's hurt, Neuwirth is hurt, so right now they had to trade for a backup goaltender. Because let's face it, Peter Mrazek's a backup goaltender.
He is. But the good news is he's 26, and we've seen time and time again, goaltenders don't really catch their stride until their late 20s, you know?
Yeah.
Except for the cases like Matt Murray, Vasilevsky, guys like that.
Right.
Could they just be hoping that low risk, high reward player like that they didn't have to give up too much, but now maybe in the future, 2, 3, 4 years from now, he turns into a number 1 goalie. I'm not saying he would be a stud, but just a number 1 guy that they can have back there and be confident in.
I mean, as a GM, you'd like to believe that that's what the potential of your players are. I don't know the likelihood of Peter Mrazek becoming a number 1 goaltender.
I don't either.
But as GM of the Flyers, you'd like to think so.
Yeah. Well, right now in the wild card, too, the New Jersey Devils have 70 points. They have really fallen off. They were one of the hottest teams in the league at the beginning of the year. And I think we said it on here, they're not going to keep it up. Yep. They can't. They don't have the team for it. They don't have the forward depth. I feel like they definitely don't have the defensive depth.
Nope.
And Corey Schneider has been hurt. So they have Kincaid in the net.
Yep.
He's not a guy that's going to take you on a run.
No.
Not at all. I feel like Kincaid is a very low-tier backup who fringes upon going back to the AHL every once in a while.
Right. I mean, he hasn't gone back to the AHL in a long time, which surprises me. But the Devils are they're very loyal to him and they're trustworthy in him. I don't see why. I don't really see the talent that he possesses. But he's a guy that plays 1 in 15 games. They ride Corey Schneider as much as he could, and when he's your backup, I guess, and he performs well, perhaps one or a few times, but other than that, not much. No teeth.
Well, the good news is by the time we talk about the NHL again, the trade deadline will be passed.
Yep.
We will see how the dust settles. We will reshape this Ranger roster because it is not going to look the same. It is going to be scary to look at. I might have to compare it to some of the worst rosters of all time, although that's an exaggeration.
Yeah, I doubt it's going to get that serious.
It will not get that serious. But before we move on to the NHL, we got to bring back a little tradition that we used to do. We haven't done it in a while.
No.
It is the Hat Trick Challenge.
Only fitting. Hat Trick Podcast meets the Hat Trick. Well, the Hat Trick Challenge meets the Hat Trick Podcast, should I say?
Yes, it is. So, for those of you who don't know, I'll let Nick go ahead and explain the Hat Trick Challenge because this is his baby.
Well, on the NHL.com, they pose 3 questions for the games for the night. Usually yes or no questions, or deciding to pick between teams. And if you get all 3 questions right for the day, that is considered a hat trick. If not, then your points are added up, and it accumulates throughout the season. The person with the most hat tricks, as in the most correct 3 answer nights, gets, I believe, tickets to the Stanley Cup final, I believe, or the All-Star game, one or the other. But there is consolations as you go and as you move up the leaderboard, and let's see what we got tonight.
Yeah, it is an interesting one tonight, I will say that. So the first one, with the Islanders playing the Maple Leafs at 7 o'clock tonight, will Toronto score at least 4 goals, regulation and overtime, if it gets that far?
4 goals seems like a lot, but I'm going to say yes. They've been on fire at home lately, and let's face it, Islanders' goaltending and defense is no match for the Toronto Maple Leafs offense. I go yes.
I could see this being a very, very high-scoring game because the Islanders have some very good firepower at forward.
Sure do.
With Bailey, Tavares, now they got Barzal. So I could see the Islanders putting up 4, but I think it's going to take more than 4 for the Maple Leafs to win this game. So I am going to agree with you and say yes. The popular pick at 55% is no, but Kevin Weeks said yes. Interesting there.
Surprised only 55 have no. I'd expect a little higher would say no to that question.
Okay. Second one, the Minnesota Wild play the New Jersey Devils. This one's easy. Who's going to win?
Wow. Well, I mean, it's very easy for me to count out the Devils, but at home they need the game. They've been playing better at home ice. The Wild not so much, but the Wild also need the game.
Both teams are in desperate need for a win because they are hovering right around that 500 mark, which is right near the wild card spot. So both teams desperate for a win. The Devils, as we just talked about, are slumping a little bit, but not terribly. Just so you know, in the last 10 games, the Devils are 5-5, and the Wild are 6-2. So a little bit better, but not really. Not much you can take out of that, I'd say. Not too big of a swing.
Not much, but I'll go with a road team. I'll go with the Minnesota Wild.
You're going to go with the Minnesota Wild. I also will say the Minnesota Wild. And how about this one, a 50-50 split on the popular pick?
I'm sure.
50-50 split
I feel like it is
with
that
the
close.
Wild being the majority, 50%, I guess, because that's what it says.
Right.
And Kevin Weeks also picked the Wild, so there you go. The last one, the Colorado, wow, I am tongue-tied. The Colorado Avalanche play the Edmonton Oilers at 9 o'clock tonight. Will Nathan MacKinnon score at least one goal?
Will he score? I'm gonna go yes. I mean, sharpshooter. He's really fine in the back of the net so far this season.
Yes, he
I go,
is.
why not? Yeah.
And how about this? The Colorado Avalanche are only 3 points out of a playoff spot.
Yeah.
I feel like in the first half of the year, for how close that the Eastern Conference wildcard race was, it's still pretty close. But the Western Conference has really tightened up. It is basically anybody except for Chicago, Vancouver, Edmonton, and Arizona can make it in the West. It is going to be interesting. So, will he score at least one goal?
I go yes.
You say yes. I am also going to say yes because it's Nathan MacKinnon. He's, what, top 3 scorer in the league right now?
Yeah, they're making a valid case for an MVP voting for him. Who knows?
That'd be nice to see. I was always very big on Nathan MacKinnon. He's finally showing what he can do. He's finally having a year where he is a top guy, turning into a superstar. He's going to be an exciting player to watch. So, that's the NHL for you.
Yep.
Not much going on, especially since
A lot more next week.
we will have a lot to dive into. We're gonna have to somehow keep track of all the trades that take place because I feel like this just feels like one of those free agencies that could get crazy.
Very well might. Teams are close.
Teams are close. All right, so let's move on to the sport that is about to begin. The Major League Baseball season is right around the corner. Spring training starts tomorrow. I know you love the sound of that.
I do, but I'm happy that it's finally back, but I know that there's still ways to go because this is only the first game.
It is.
So I expect
Still something.
Yep, it's still baseball, which is always good. I'm looking forward to it. I really am. Happy it's back. I don't really know what the season's going to be like for any team. Really.
No, it's going to be a very interesting year. One of the biggest things that happened in between the 2 weeks that we had our show was JD Martinez officially, I believe, is it official? He officially signed with the Red Sox. That team is good. The Red Sox are a very good team. But then again, so are the Astros. So are the Yankees. The American League, I feel like, is going to be a dogfight.
It will be, as it always is.
It's going to be fun to watch. Because I feel like those 3 teams have almost separated themselves from the rest of the American League. Besides Cleveland, who is, hanging in there. But I feel like they need to do more to get onto the level that the Astros are on, that the Red Sox and the Yankees are on. All 3 of those teams made moves in the offseason to make themselves better. The Astros got Cole, the Yankees got Stanton, and the Red Sox got JD Martinez. What did Cleveland do?
Not much.
They did not do anything. So those 3 teams, I feel like, are definitely the teams to beat in the American League. I'm sure you know more about the National League than I do. But who would you say is your favorite in the National League?
I can't turn against the Dodgers. I feel like they're always going to be there. One of the obvious answers I feel that a lot of people are saying is the San Francisco Giants with all the moves that they have made in the offseason.
They did make a lot. I totally forgot about that.
Which I completely understand why people are saying that this team now is one of the teams to beat. But keep in mind, this is a team, yes, they added the additions of Evan Longoria, Andrew McCutcheon, former MVP, and I believe they got one more piece. I believe they got a pitcher. Could be wrong. Evan Longoria has never had a season where he batted over 300.
Really?
Yes. Andrew McCutcheon has been on a steady decline ever since he won MVP
Right.
4 or 5 years ago.
And he got steroids, right? He got busted for steroids?
His partner did, Starling Marte.
Oh, okay.
For steroids. And he's going to have a position change in a bigger ballpark and a bigger outfield. So this is a team, it really is going to depend what type of season these players have, obviously. Because if they continue with the way they've been going, they're not going to compete with the likes of the Dodgers and even the Diamondbacks for that matter as well.
Right.
So that division is going to be similar to the American League East in terms of a dogfight. I feel like it's anybody's game in the National League West. The Central is going to be close. Well, it's not really close, but the Central is going to be between two teams, the St. Louis Cardinals and the Chicago Cubs.
Don't count out the Brewers. They made some moves.
So yeah, those three teams will be in the mix. They'll be pretty close, I assume.
I'm just gonna go ahead and interrupt you real quick and say that the Cubs run away with that division, especially after getting Darvish.
Darvish is a big addition. I feel like he's a very good replacement for Jake Arrieta because they pretty much lost him, and I think he's actually very close to signing. I'm hearing the Phillies are in on him, so that'll be interesting.
Well, the Phillies haven't been good in a while.
Phillies are getting better though. They made a few moves as well. So
they have a rookie, I believe, that was up there for Rookie of the Year candidate. He didn't get the final 3 vote, but I believe he had a very good rookie campaign. I couldn't tell you his name because I don't really pay attention to the Phillies that much.
Not really sure who it is. I didn't think they had anybody. Miguel Franco, I believe, is the correct pronunciation of his name.
Maybe that's who it was. How about your New York Mets, Nick? What do you think about your New York Mets and Tim Tebow?
I don't know what Tebow is. Listen, as I mentioned before, as a general manager's take, you want to believe that every player you have in your system will eventually be good enough to compete at a major league level, which is why I can understand the comments that Sandy Alderson made for Tim Tebow. However, I don't believe that the skill level on a baseball field of Tim Tebow is going to be good enough to make the New York Mets roster this season. They would have to be very far out of a playoff game in order for and injury might also have to be taken into consideration because Tebow's a lefty. He won't be able to play the infield. And the outfield is very, very strong this year, at least in my opinion. So, but I hear his power is like nobody else's.
Yeah.
Which is why, sure, if you get a fastball right down the middle at 95, you could put it over any wall in any ballpark.
Especially if you're an MLB prospect.
Throw him a curveball. Throw him a slider in the dirt. Throw him a knuckleball.
Does he have the eye to lay off of it? Does he have the discipline behind the plate?
I don't think so. Could he develop it? Sure. Will he? I don't think so.
See, I don't know if he'd be able to develop it because he is getting up there in age, and players really only develop when they're young. You don't see any 30-year-olds coming out of nowhere in Double-A just moving through the ranks and then become a superstar in the MLB.
Right.
I feel like his time's passed, and unless he has the discipline already and they're just kind of slowly moving him along, I don't think we'll ever see Tebow playing for the Mets or any MLB team for that matter. But then again, anything's possible. We could see him on the opening day roster playing right field. How'd you feel about that?
I would not like that at all. I don't even think I could consider it a joke because it would make me very mad. If that's the case, I don't believe it is. It will happen.
Well,
Wish they'd trade him. Hope they trade him.
you hope they trade him? Not a bad idea. He probably has some kind of value, especially if he's, in the system and made it a full year. But nonetheless, in the American League, I still think that the teams to beat are the Boston Red Sox, the New York Yankees, and the Houston Astros. I I can see 3 teams in the American League winning 100 games. I would not put that out of the question.
Steep number, but it's possible. Anything is possible.
The Indians and the Astros, 2 teams, hit 100 wins last year. The Red Sox were 7 games away from hitting 100 wins, and the Yankees were only 9 away from hitting 100 wins. So it's not out of the question, especially since these teams have gotten better.
Right.
This is going to be a very exciting baseball year, and I cannot wait. The game is really changing, like before our eyes.
Yep.
It's amazing. Any other baseball news you want to touch on, Nick?
Not really. I know photo day was today, so I know the players are excited.
Oh, yes, photo day. Oh, we forgot to talk about Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson signed a contract with the New York Yankees. I have no idea what to make of that, because here's my question. If, hypothetically speaking, if the Yankees make a run and Russell Wilson is actually playing, what happens when the football season starts?
I don't know. It's going to depend on what special terms of his contract.
It-
What his preference is. I guess. I mean, he's not going to be playing. His situation is not any different than Tim Tebow's in the Mets.
Right.
So I think it's going to be under the same thing, and I firmly believe that he'll go back to Seattle if that is to happen.
How many spring training games do you think he plays? If he plays any, which I think he might.
He might. He could. Actually, I don't know. I don't think he's invited to spring training for them. I don't know if that's in his contract. If he does, maybe 1 or 2, but if that many at all.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's baseball. There's really nothing much to talk about. But the NBA season is almost over. So, what is going on in the world of the NBA? Well, we just had the All-Star break. That was a very, very just... It's hard to watch the All-Star game and root for a team to win now because nobody is playing. They're just out there having fun. The Rising Star Challenge is a very good example because the world put up, 180 points?
Yeah, something like that.
It was 180 to 150. Is there any way to fix the All-Star game?
No, I like the way it is. I think it should be that way. This All-Star game from the NBA was one of the most competitive games we've seen in a long time. I think it was very well done. I don't know why it's getting critiqued the way it is. They drafted and what people were mad that the actual draft wasn't televised. Give me a break.
Well, Adam Silver already said that. It will be televised, which is a huge flop, in my opinion, by the NBA because they could have raked in the ratings on that.
Yeah, I guess so, but I don't think it should be nationally televised. The NHL only does it on the NHL Network. I mean, I think that's enough.
Well, we don't get the NBA Network here.
No, we don't, but I mean, at least televise. They call it NBA TV, so televise on NBA TV. It's a draft. How long could it take? There's only 12 men to a team,
Right.
so I don't really
Here,
see that.
let me just back up real quick, back to the NHL. As a notification has come in, the Tampa Bay Lightning are not on Ryan McDonough's 10-team no-trade list. Same as the Maple Leafs, so another potential landing spot with McDonough.
Likely as well.
Likely. But if he goes to the Lightning, I want Sergachev. That would be amazing. Anyway, back to the NBA. So you like the All-Star game this year?
I did. I like the setup. I don't think it's a big deal that it wasn't televised. As far as Kevin Hart's jokes and as far as Fergie's national anthem goes,
Oh boy.
maybe not. They tried to be different. I don't know how well it worked. In my opinion, it didn't work well at all. And also this, Adam Silver's also talking about a playoff format change, and now everybody's up in arms that it's going to change because it's the first year that the Eastern Conference is actually relevant again. So I don't know what they're going to do with that. He's got a lot on his plate. He sure does.
I think this is the first time in a while that
GM 2.0 says not to do it. And by
Is that
I mean LeBron.
is that LeBron James? Yes. He said pump the brakes. Hold on.
Well, yeah, because because the Eastern Conference is actually relevant again. This is the first time it has been like this in anywhere between 6 to 8 years.
I think this is the first time that every team in a playoff spot is above 500
In a long time.
in a long time, because you used to see it, the 7 and 8 seeds used to be teams that had terrible records that were below 500, and they were a walk in the park for the 1 and 2 seeds in the first round. But now Miami in the 8 seed is 30 and 28. Granted, that's not like incredible or anything, but it's an improvement. I do not want to see the playoff format changed. I think it's a bad idea, personally.
If the Eastern Conference goes back to the way that they were, then I am behind it. I'm glad that Adam Silver actually recognizes that something like this should happen or could happen, because it's definitely a possibility. But if the Eastern Conference kicks up and stays the way that they do this year, if all else is the same, then don't change it if it's not broken.
All right, because if you look at the East, and really that's the problem. Going into the year, everybody said the East is so weak. The East is so weak. It's all about the West. You have a team like Detroit still in the 9 seed, 1 game under 500, still has a chance to make the playoffs. I'd even say Charlotte has a chance if they get hot. Granted, they're a few more games back, but if they get hot, they got Kemba Walker, they got Dwight Howard. Anything's possible when it comes to that. So I don't see why changing the playoff format is a top priority right now. I don't think it should be a top priority. No. The teams are rebuilding right now. You can't always have every single team competing at the same time. And it just so happens this year that teams in the East were rebuilding more than teams in the West. That's how I felt about it, at least. I don't know. I'm just here to talk about it.
Yeah, we're only fans. We're not even analysis. We kind of are. We're low-key analysis.
We try to analyze. If I told you at the beginning of the year that Toronto would be the number 1 team after the All-Star break in the East, would you have thought I was crazy?
I wouldn't have thought you were crazy, but I definitely wouldn't think they're number 1. They're top 3 by far. I mean, that's the question.
I agree.
I don't think that's really a debate to anybody else, and the other 2 are kind of obvious. But one of the other 2 teams were also in 4th place, which that I would say you're crazy.
Washington?
Cleveland. Cleveland was in 4th for a very long time. Washington was around the 7th spot, but again, I think that standings are fair. The Wizards are our top 4 team in the Eastern Conference, according to in my mind. Toronto's got them.
And
what the finals looks like, I cannot tell you.
Oh, I have no idea. Because I can see Houston taking down Golden State.
Right, and I can also see Boston taking down Cleveland. Because that's enough for a Celtics-Rockets final.
I can see a lot of teams taking down Cleveland. I could even see Toronto taking down.
Do we see, like, who is going to make it?
Who knows? Indiana could make a run.
See, this is what I'm saying.
This is the most open year in the East, I feel like. And the West.
I think it's going to be one of those 3 teams in the top in the Eastern Conference. Excuse me. And I'm glad that it's so that nobody knows what's happening, because I'm tired of seeing LeBron against Curry for a 4th.
Yeah, we got that 3 years in a row. If that happens a 4th year in a row, then the NBA needs to think about lowering the salary cap, in my opinion, because that's the only way to stop super teams, is to lower the salary cap. Because then you can't pay superstars max contracts. I think the Warriors have enough cap space next year for another max contract or something like that. That's ridiculous. They already have Curry. They already have Durant, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. Those are all stars right there. And you're saying they have another one? It doesn't make sense to me that you can have a league where players get paid way more than they're worth. Sixth men, were getting paid upwards of $60 million almost. It was absolutely ridiculous to watch the contracts get handed out this year, last offseason in the NBA. But then again, there is competition, and competition drives the ratings. So who knows? Maybe now that Cleveland's in third, people will start watching the NBA more. Maybe the playoffs will give us something to watch other than Curry versus LeBron. But in the West, you have to also look at Houston. Houston is a very good team. James Harden and Chris Paul are starting to click. They are a very good duo. Clint Capella is showing that he can play very tough center minutes. He is a good player. They are, right now, half a game ahead of Golden State. It's only half a game, but there's a long way in the season to go. Anything can happen. Somebody on Golden State could get hurt. Somebody on Houston can get hurt. Don't count out Minnesota. They were a big team to look at coming into the season. They have not shown their true potential yet. Even Oklahoma City, a team that has Russell Westbrook, Paul George, Carmelo Anthony, should not be the 5 seed. Even down in the standings more, the Pelicans sadly lost Boogie Cousins. Anthony Davis said that he believed if the Pelicans did not lose Cousins, that they could have made a run at the championship. I think that is absolutely blasphemous because that team was not even that good with Cousins. They had 2 very good interior guys. I don't understand. It's almost comic. It is comical that he believes that the team could have made a championship run when you have teams like Houston, like Golden State that you have to get by. And then if you even do make it to the finals, then you have to get through either Cleveland, Boston, or Toronto. So AD is just, he needs to back off. They were never going to make the finals with Cousins. It blows my mind that he can say that. Would you agree?
Yes, I do.
Did you ever think that New Orleans had a chance to make the finals? Because they'd still have to get through Houston or Golden State, maybe both.
Maybe San Antonio, Minnesota as well. I get that aspect, but again, as a player, you got to be that confident. So you want to think that you could do that, especially when you have the star power of him and Boogie Cousins, Drew Holiday, and Rajon Rondo, the veteran.
Agreed.
I thought they were going to be better than they were, given a healthy, Cousins and a healthy team. But
Yeah.
No, I don't think they could have won the Western Conference.
No, I think that he said, what was it? Anthony Davis's quote was something like, "Nobody could stop us." Well, if nobody could stop you, then why were you not the 1 seed in the West?
Right.
Teams that can say nobody can stop us, Houston. Nobody can stop Houston. They're the number 1 seed right now. Toronto. Nobody can stop them. They're the number 1 seed. Toronto is 9-1 in their last 10. Houston's 10-0. Nobody can stop those 2 right now. But for Anthony Davis to say that he believed the Pelicans could make a run is absolutely ridiculous. And that's going to be my closing remark. What about you, Nick? You have any closing remarks?
I'm excited for baseball season. I'm excited for the NHL trade deadline. Looking for new hope, new excitement.
Yep. I'm going to leave us all on this. Bob McKenzie about a half hour ago tweeted out, Josh Bailey and the Islanders are working on a multi-year extension, still finalizing the details, but it is likely to be an AAV of 5, which is very good, with a term of 5 or 6 years. Ouch. I feel like that's a little too much for a guy that's going to be 29 years old when the puck drops in the 2018-19 season.
Who's that for?
That's for Josh Bailey. 5 AAV is very good. I thought they would give him something like 7.58. But 5 I feel like is a very good number for him. But the contract length is what needs to be reworked with them if they want to stay competitive, because he's going to be 35, 34 when that contract's up.
Yeah, and playing with John Tavares helps, and I'm hearing a lot of rumors that Tavares might not be in New York Islander and for much longer. So
Is he in the trade talk?
I don't think he's going to be, no. I don't think he gets moved at the deadline. I think he gets moved probably.
You think he signed somewhere else? He's a free agent, correct?
Yeah, I think so. In the offseason, I believe so.
I've heard Montreal possibly for him, but I see him staying. But that's it. That's sports for today.
There it is.
Tuesday, February the 22nd, 2018. That's your news in the sports world. What kind of games we got today? We have a lot of basketball going on today after the All-Star break's over. We definitely have hockey today. The Rangers do play. They play Columbus. So look out for that. See who's playing for the Rangers. We have no idea. Somebody could get traded Somebody could get traded mid-game. Like, who was the guy? Duchesne. Duchesne got traded mid-game. It's going to be fun to watch. But anyway, that's episode number 5. We have fulfilled our 1-hour time limit. And next week we will go over the NHL trade deadline. Yep. That will be fun. And some of the spring training games. We'll see what we got. All right, everybody, that is the episode. Have a great day. Goodbye.